Welcome back to the channel. She woke up on Rachel's couch at 6:14 a.m. Not because of an alarm, because that's when she always woke up. Body clock unchanged, life unrecognizable. She lay still, staring at a water stain on Rachel's ceiling, cataloging what was different. The sounds, a stranger's refrigerator hum, traffic coming from a different direction. The smell, Rachel's lavender candles instead of the cedar diffuser Marcus had picked out. Everything was different. She was still the same. Rachel appeared in the doorway in an oversized university sweatshirt, holding 2 mugs. She sat at the end of the couch, handed one over, and didn't say anything for a while. That was the thing about Rachel. She always knew when words were the wrong tool. "How are you?" she finally asked. "I don't know yet," Naomi said. "Ask me in 90 days. Rachel wrapped both hands around her mug. "Mom wants to call Chelsea's mother." "Tell her not to." "Naomi." "Tell her not to, Rach." "Not yet." She sat up, pushed her hair back, drank her coffee. "I want to see what Chelsea does next. I want to watch." Rachel studied her the way she always had, like she was trying to read something written in a language she half knew. When she spoke, her voice was careful, unsettled. "You're not falling apart," she said slowly. "You're different. You're worse." Naomi almost smiled. "I'm clearer." Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She looked at the screen. "Chelsea." "Hey, I know this is hard. I'm here if you need to talk. You'll always be my girl." She read it twice. Turned the phone face down. "Not yet," she thought, "because I want to see what she says next." Outside, the city was already moving. Naomi sat in the quiet of her sister's apartment, hands around a borrowed mug, and watched the light change. She wasn't grieving. She was counting. 3 days later, she was sitting alone at a corner table at Brood, the cafe 2 blocks from the nonprofit, when her phone rang. A courier service. Was she home to sign for a certified letter? She wasn't home. She no longer had a home. "I can meet you here," she said, and gave the address. The envelope arrived 20 minutes later. Cream-colored, heavy stock, embossed in the upper left corner, Whitmore & Associates, Estate and Legacy Law. She didn't recognize the firm. She ordered a second coffee before opening it. She read it once, then again from the beginning, more slowly. The way you reread something when the words are clear but the meaning hasn't landed yet. Then she set it face down on the table. She looked out the window at the street. A bus pulling away from the curb. A child chasing a dog across the crosswalk, laughing at something only children find funny. A man in a yellow jacket arguing cheerfully into his phone. The ordinary Tuesday world, going about its business, completely unaware. She stayed very still for approximately 45 seconds. Then she picked up her coffee and finished it. The letter informed her, in the measured language of attorneys who charged by the syllable, that one Edmund Voss, her maternal great-uncle, a man she had met exactly 4 times in her life and thought about almost never, had died 11 days ago at the age of 81, and had named her, Naomi Elaine Carter, as the sole heir to his estate. His estate, a privately held real estate portfolio spanning 19 states and 4 countries. Current valuation, $650 billion. She folded the letter carefully along its original crease, slid it back into the envelope, and tucked it into her bag. She left a $20 bill under her cup. Then she walked back to work. She was 3 minutes early. Jonathan Whitmore called the next morning at 8 sharp, the kind of punctuality that announced itself as a character statement. Naomi was sitting on the edge of Rachel's couch in yesterday's work clothes, coffee going cold on the table beside her, when she answered. He introduced himself without warmth or excess, just his name, his firm, and the matter at hand. She listened without interrupting. Edmund Voss, he explained, had been observing her for years. Not intrusively. He was not that kind of man. Quietly. The way a person watches a tree grow, with patience and without agenda. He had been, in his final decade, a man who studied people the way others studied markets, looking not for flash, but for structure. For what held. "He described you in his instructions," Whitmore said, "as someone who had learned to live without wealth, and who had therefore learned something that money cannot buy." Edmund had no children. There had been 3 previous candidates, 2 family members who had revealed themselves over time to be exactly what he feared. Transactional, performative, hungry in the particular way of people who mistake wanting for deserving. The third had once asked him, in what she believed was casual conversation, what he was worth. He crossed her off the list that same afternoon. Naomi was the last, and the only one he had never told. There is a condition, Whitmore continued, a 90-day confidentiality clause. You may not disclose the inheritance, the firm's involvement, or your financial status to any party, including family, for 90 days from the date of the letter. At day 91, full control transfers to you unconditionally. Why 90 days? She asked. A brief pause, not uncertainty she sensed, but precision. Mr. Voss wanted you to observe the people in your life under conditions where they still believed you had nothing. He paused once more. His words, to see who they really were when they thought you had nothing. Naomi was quiet for a moment. 90 days, she repeated. Yes. That's fine, she said. I was already watching. She found a studio apartment in Midtown, clean, unfurnished, $1,400 a month. She bought a bed frame from a thrift store and assembled it herself on a Tuesday night using a YouTube tutorial and a butter knife standing in for a missing Allen wrench. It took 40 minutes. The frame held. She kept her job at the nonprofit, showed up on time, ate lunch at her desk, answered emails, filed reports, refilled the coffee machine when it ran low because no one else ever seemed to notice it had. She was, to all outward appearances, a woman quietly rebuilding a small life from the rubble of a marriage. That was the story they were all telling about her. She let them. On the other side of the city, Marcus and Chelsea were telling a different story. It went like this. We fell in love. It was complicated, but love is love. We're so happy. We hope everyone can be happy for us. The story of two people who had simply followed their hearts, which is what people say when they don't want to account for whose heart they broke along the way. The engagement photos dropped on a Thursday. 300 likes in the first hour. The penthouse balcony glittered behind them. Naomi's penthouse, though no one knew that yet. Chelsea's hand raised, the diamond catching the light. Marcus's arm around her, easy and comfortable, wearing the smile Naomi had once believed was hers alone. The caption read, New beginnings, same city, bigger love. Naomi saw it at 7:43 p.m. She looked at it for exactly as long as it took to understand what she was looking at. Then she scrolled past it, closed the app, and set her phone face down on the thrift store nightstand. She opened her notebook, wrote one line. Day 14, watching. Then she turned off the light. Outside, the city continued its noise. Inside, the bedframe held. The calls started on day 22. First, a voicemail from Marcus. Tone calibrated somewhere between casual and urgent, the voice of a man who had rehearsed not sounding desperate. Hey. I know things are, look, I don't want this to be weird, but the bank's been asking questions about the mortgage co-signature, and I just need to know if you've said anything to anyone. Call me back. She didn't. Day 26, another message. Less rehearsed this time. The seams were showing. Naomi, I need you to sign a release for the joint account. My lawyer says you're entitled to half, but look, just call me. Please. She noted the please. Filed it away. Day 29. Chelsea. The text came in at 11:18 p.m. Naomi read it in the dark phone screen, the only light in the room. Naomi, I've been thinking about you so much. People are saying you're not doing well, and I just want you to know I'm here. No matter what happened between us, you're still my girl. I hope you're eating. I hope you're sleeping. I love you. She read it 3 times, carefully. The way you read a document you know will be used in evidence. Then she opened a folder on her phone, plain, unlabeled to anyone else, titled Records, and screenshotted it. 37 items in the folder already. This was 38. What the messages told her, stripped of their warmth-shaped words, was simple. The mortgage was straining. The accounts were drying up. Marcus had spent 4 years living inside a financial structure Naomi had quietly built and maintained, and without her, the architecture was showing cracks he hadn't known were load-bearing. Chelsea's message told her something different. It told her that Chelsea had heard something from their circle, from Marcus, from somewhere, that suggested Naomi might be struggling. And her response to that possibility was not to call, not to show up. It was to send a text at 11 p.m., engineered to feel like warmth while functioning as reconnaissance. I hope you're eating, she had written. I hope you're watching, Naomi thought. She put the phone down and went to sleep. Whitmore called on a Wednesday afternoon. Naomi was in the middle of a budget meeting. Spreadsheets, fluorescent light, someone's cold coffee slowly forming a ring on the conference table. When her phone screen lit up with his name, she excused herself quietly, walked to the stairwell at the end of the hall, and answered on the second ring. "I wanted to give you a fuller picture," he said, "of some assets that are now directly relevant to your situation." He was methodical, as always. He began with the portfolio overview. 12,400 properties across the country, ranging from single-family rentals in the Midwest to commercial towers on both coasts. Then he moved to specifics. His tone remained even throughout, the tone of a man who understood irony perfectly well and had chosen not to trade in it. "One of the residential properties," he said, "is a luxury penthouse at 1180 Meridian Place, currently occupied by a tenant who transferred the lease approximately 4 weeks ago." Naomi was quiet for a moment. "What's the tenant's name?" "Marcus James Carter." She leaned back against the stairwell wall. The concrete was cool through her blazer. She said nothing, so Whitmore continued. "On the commercial side, a photography studio on West 34th Street, operating under the business name Chelsea & Co. Creative. The lease was signed 18 months ago. The co-signer on the associated business loan, a $240,000 facility extended through a subsidiary of Voss Holdings, is listed as Marcus Carter. So, he was renting from her. Chelsea was running her business on Naomi's land, servicing a loan that now lived inside Naomi's portfolio. They had built their new life, the penthouse, the studio, the whole carefully staged performance of it, inside a house she owned. Every photograph Chelsea had taken there. Every morning Marcus had woken up believing he'd won. All of it. Hers. "Is there anything you'd like me to action?" Whitmore asked. "No," Naomi said. "Not yet." A beat of silence. "Noted," she said, and walked back into the meeting. The wedding invitations went out on a Friday. Rachel texted a photo of the envelope she'd received. Cream cardstock, gold foil, the full ceremony details for a venue in the Hudson Valley on a Saturday 6 weeks out. The kind of invitation designed to make people feel included in something significant. "Did you get one?" Rachel asked. "No," Naomi typed back. "I didn't." She wasn't surprised. She was barely even interested. What was more interesting was the timing. Day 70, 21 days left on the clause. They had absolutely no idea. Marcus posted that evening. "Moving forward, no regrets. Life is short. Love is everything." A photo of him in a suit, grinning, the same grin she noticed that he used to wear when he needed someone to believe something. She had believed it for years. That was on her, only once. Chelsea's posts were more elaborate. The venue walk-through, all golden light and exposed stone. The florals, peonies, eucalyptus, the full romantic vocabulary. Then the dress fitting, shot from behind, tulle and silk cascading to the floor, Chelsea's hand raised to her mouth in performative disbelief at her own reflection. "I still can't believe this is my life," she captioned it. Naomi looked at the dress. Then she thought about the venue. She opened her laptop and sent a single line to Whitmore. "Please confirm the vendor list for the Hudson Valley property portfolio." His reply arrived 40 minutes later. She opened the attached document, scrolled to the relevant entry, and found it without difficulty. The wedding venue, a renovated estate in Columbia County, was property number 7841 in the Voss Holdings portfolio. Currently contracted for a private event on the exact date printed on the invitation. Of course it is, she thought. Behind the posts, Marcus was 3 months behind on the penthouse. Chelsea's studio had filed for a payment extension. The wedding had been partially financed on credit. They were building a fairy tale on borrowed money, borrowed time, and borrowed ground. 21 days. Naomi closed her laptop and went to bed at 9:30. She slept perfectly. She woke at 5, made coffee, sat by the window and watched the city come to life in the dark. The garbage trucks, the early joggers, the bread delivery van that arrived every morning at 5:20 without fail. The ordinary machinery of a world that did not know what day it was. She did. At 6 she called Whitmore. "As of this morning," she said, "I'm free to act." "Yes," he said. "We've been ready." At 9 o'clock, certified letters arrived at 1180 Meridian Place. Formal notice of lease termination. 30 days to vacate. Per clause 14.2, no extension would be offered. Marcus called at 9:47. She let it go to voicemail. At noon, Chelsea & Co. Creative received formal notice that the West 34th property would not be renewing its lease, effective immediately, per a breach of terms clause that had been quietly accumulating for 6 months. Late payments, an unauthorized sublease of the rear studio space, 3 unresolved maintenance liability issues, everything documented, everything clean. Chelsea called at 12:31, then 12:44. Marcus called twice more after that. Naomi made herself lunch and ate it standing at her kitchen counter. At 2, Voss Financial Holdings issued a formal notice of loan recall. The $240,000 facility co-signed by Marcus Carter, recalled in full. 30 days to clear the balance. At 4, the Hudson Valley Estate notified the event organizer that the booking for the upcoming Saturday ceremony was canceled. Internal use required. Per contract, force majeure provisions precluded a refund. Naomi sat at her kitchen table and waited. Her phone rang at 4:22. She looked at his name for 3 full rings, then she answered. Naomi. The rehearsed calm was gone. What remained was raw, not grief, not guilt. Fear. What is happening? There's a notice about the apartment and Chelsea's getting calls and the loan and the venue just... Marcus. Her voice was even, unhurried. Do you remember what you said to me the night you brought the papers? Silence. You said I was resilient. A pause. You were right. She let that sit. You have 30 days on the apartment. I'd start packing. She ended the call, set the phone face down, picked up her coffee. Somewhere across town, a man stood in a penthouse that no longer belonged to him. A woman stared at a notice on a studio built on someone else's foundation. A wedding venue was making apology calls to guests. Naomi finished her coffee. Then she opened her laptop and began drafting the press release for the Boston headquarters. She did not tell the story. She didn't have to. Marcus and Chelsea's world collapsed publicly enough. The penthouse, the studio, the recalled loan, the canceled wedding, the frantic reshuffling of plans and people, and carefully constructed narratives. Word spread the way it always does in certain circles, through the very people they had invited to watch their triumph. No one could quite explain what had happened. Only that it had. And that Naomi Carter, the quiet one, the nonprofit worker, the woman they had all quietly pitied, seemed somehow to have been the one who made it happen. 6 months later, Rachel flew to Boston. Naomi met her at the airport herself. She was in a good coat, well cut, understated, and she carried the look of someone who had finally settled into a version of themselves they recognized. Not new. Not hardened. Just clear. They had dinner at a restaurant Naomi chose because she liked the food, not because she needed to be seen. They talked about their mother, about Rachel's new job, about a book they'd both been meaning to finish. Finally, Rachel set down her fork. Why did you wait? All 90 days you knew what you had. You could have acted on day 1. Why the silence? Naomi considered it. Because silence is power, she said, and patience is a weapon. If I'd acted on day 1, from hurt, from anger, it would have been revenge. They would have painted me as the bitter ex-wife. They would have had a story. And this way, I watched them build everything they thought they wanted. I let them believe they'd won. She paused, and then I simply exercised what was already mine. Rachel was quiet. What are you going to do now? Naomi looked out at the Boston skyline, the buildings, the lights, the city she was already reshaping quietly, floor by floor. Build something better, she said. She meant it, not as a threat, not as a declaration, just as a fact. And that, right there, is the story of Naomi Carter. The woman they dismissed, the woman they pitied, the woman they never saw coming. The people you underestimate don't disappear. They recalibrate, and the ones with true character don't need to announce their power. They simply exercise it. If this story moved you, if Naomi's patience, her silence, her quiet precision hit something in you, then you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story like this one. Like this video if you stayed until the end and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that the quietest person in the room is often the most dangerous. We'll see you in the next one.